Hi Peggy, taking a look at your scales, everything looks quite good. The only little problems are your white and your black are not absolute. So for white you want to have R255, G255, B255 in the color picker RGB area, and for black it should be 000. Your colors and the gradation of hue are nearly fully saturated, if not fully saturated, and that's a fun design. The gradation of value looks good, and gradation of saturation is quite good too. If we want to go with the idea of keeping hue fixed, that earlier version, the one that's sort of to the background, is the better example. Brett, your scales look really good. If there is any little thing you could do to adjust them, it might be to make value a tad more constant in tones. With gradation of hue, your colors are pretty saturated, but they're not fully saturated. In order to check, I had to do a screenshot of this, bring it into Photoshop. Something is funny with this file, and I'd like to know if it was made in Photoshop or Illustrator. I'm not sure what's up. Your gradation of value looks good, and your gradation of saturation is pretty good. The best part of that is the purple line in the middle. And also, if we want to adhere strictly to the idea that hue should be fixed, then there should be only one hue in that composition. Well, Pam, your scales look quite good, with the one exception that the three blocks at extreme left are not all identical. I took the color picker to your gradation of hue, and it looks quite good in terms of fully saturated color. And I see I have some neat design ideas. I especially like the gradation of value. With gradation of saturation, the value could be more constant, similar to the tone scale. Chris, your scales look very good. Let's see. Looking at the gradation of hue, well, seems like all of your circles are not perfect, which was an aspect of assignment 4. And I noticed that the green adjacent to yellow is actually a tone. When you look at that, can you detect that there's a little gray in that color? I took the color picker to it, and it's the only one that's not fully saturated in the array of shapes there. Your gradation of value looks good. In gradation of saturation, you are asked to keep value fixed. In other words, the value should be constant, and so this should be a little more like the tone scale. When we render it in grayscale, everything should be the same gray. Jim, your tone scale looks pretty constant in value. Otherwise in the scales, I noticed that the leftmost box in tints does not have the same RGB values as the leftmost boxes in shades and tones. Also, for pure white, you should have R255, G255, B255. Those are the red, green, and blue values that are visible in the color picker. I want you to take a look at my drafts review, even if you don't post a draft, because there will be important info for you there. Likewise, black is not perfect, and for perfect neutral with a gray, all three values should be identical. So there's a little color to your gray. It's not entirely neutral. Looking at your gradation of hue, well, all the colors are fully saturated. I might suggest that interval-wise there is a jump between the green and the yellow. Your gradation of value is okay, and the gradation of saturation should have fixed value. Well, Sophia, that is a pretty good set of scales. Let's take a look at the gradation of hue. Good job getting fully saturated colors. This composition has a lot of pizzazz to it, and it's because we're seeing green next to magenta, and those colors are complements. And you might say, well, how can that be if this is a gradation? or a gradual transition, but we can see that there's that large green circle and it's got appendages that stem from it, and they overlap or come in front of the green, at which point they're red. This is my favorite of your three compositions. I think it's really ambitious. The gradation of value is okay, and the gradation of hue is quite correct too. However, I notice an obvious oval there. Well, hi, Anne. Your scales look pretty good. To the naked eye, it's hard to tell, but I think your three leftmost boxes are not the same, and maybe a subtle shift in value in the tone scale, getting darker toward the right. Let's take a look at gradation of hue. It's a lovely idea, but do remember that we want fully saturated colors, and I want you to check and see how to do that. The gradation of value is beautiful. Gradation of saturation actually almost works better for a gradation of hue. You've got more than one hue here. The colors, the blue, the violet, the magenta, come from different color picker fields. Well, Becky, this is a really good set of scales. Let's take a look at the gradation of hue. Those colors should all be fully saturated. That means they should come from the top rightmost corner of the color picker. I want you to go back and find my notes on how to do that so that you're capable of managing it. Your gradation of value is correct, and I like the layout for your gradation of saturation. However, note that you're asked to keep value constant. So your gradation of saturation should be an awful lot like a tones scale, where the color gets grayer but the value stays the same. Well, Vanessa, your scales look quite good. Let's take a look at gradation of hue. I noticed that you changed a color in the top center of that, and I think it's improved now. Well, with gradation of value, that red piece works well. In fact, that's my favorite design of the three that you have here. However, I do like the layout for the gradation of saturation, which I believe is the yellow one. Now, gradation of saturation should have constant value like a tones scale, and I do see those small circles trailing off toward the top right as getting darker when I view this in grayscale. Well, hi, Dina. Your scales look pretty good. I noticed that values are quite constant across the tone scale. The leftmost boxes should all be the same, and the rightmost box in tints should be white, and there shouldn't be any gray visible in the tint scale. Let's look at the assignment for work. I notice you're using ovals or perfect circles. We're called for, like you to work on your circle drawing skills. All the colors in the gradation of hue are fully saturated. The gradation of value is okay. Gradation of saturation should have constant value like a tone scale. Hi, Holly. For the most part, value is quite constant in tones. Your rightmost box is the white, black, and gray are just right, and the leftmost ones ought to all match. And I think we can see a couple of areas where interval might be just a little more even, like between the first and second squares and tones. Gradation in hue is going on the right track. However, these should be fully saturated colors, and I want you to check my notes on how to do that. Your gradation of value is quite beautiful. A nice design there, and also the design for gradation and saturation is nice. However, value should be constant there. Hi, Missy, your scales look quite good. The value in tones is quite constant. I was just wondering about the first two blocks in shades. Could it be that the interval is too great there? Now, gradation of hue. Those colors should be fully saturated, and I was trying to explain that to you before. I want you to go back to the discussion and figure out how to find fully saturated colors. Your gradations of value and saturation are right on.